And when it came down to go a little deeper and a little more, this little ran to somewhere in the Middle East. And then he goes and sells a Bitcoin scam. Chimaev can fight, but sir, you are not a man. The world knows you as not a man. You will never be a man, you little Chechen.
There are fights that fill arenas, and then there are fights that fill the air itself. Heavy, electric, and trembling with the kind of tension that doesn't need a microphone to be heard. UFC 328, scheduled for the 9th of May, carries exactly that weight. 2 men, 1 title. A middleweight collision that has been building not just in press conferences and training camps, but in the deep, unspoken language of 2 warriors who have already shared the same mat, breathed the same air, and measured each other in silence long before the world was watching. Sean Strickland is ready for war. That word, war, isn't a metaphor when it comes to Strickland. It is a philosophical stance, a way of existing inside a sport that has broken men far more refined than him. He is not polished. He was never meant to be. He is jagged and determined and utterly, terrifyingly unafraid. And on the 9th of May, he walks into the octagon to defend the middleweight title against one of the most feared fighters the sport has ever produced, Khamzat Chimaev. Let that sink in for a moment. Because Chimaev is not just a fighter. He is a force of nature wrapped in a grappling pedigree that has swallowed world-class competitors whole. His wrestling is not merely an attribute. It is a weapon of psychological destruction. Men crumble before the takedown even arrives, their minds already broken by the anticipation of being driven into the canvas with a force that feels less like sport and more like inevitability. The majority of the audience watching this fight expects exactly that outcome. Chimaev's wrestling advantage viewed as so obvious, so overwhelming, that the outcome feels written in advance. But Sean Strickland did not get here by following scripts. And here is where the story takes its most fascinating turn, because Strickland's confidence heading into this fight is not born of blind bravado or calculated pre-fight theater. It comes from something far more intimate and revealing. These 2 men have trained together. They have wrestled together. They have felt each other's weight, tested each other's instincts, and walked away from those sessions with information the public never sees. Strickland has looked Chimaev in the eye on the mat, and something in what he found there has given him a certainty that the rest of the world hasn't caught up to yet. In a recent interview, Strickland peeled back the curtain with the kind of blunt honesty that only he can deliver. Part of him knows if we wrestle, I'm just going to counter-wrestle and get up. Or he knows he can't take me down, and we kickbox for 5 rounds. He's going to get frustrated, and I'm just going to tag him at will. These are not the words of a man managing public perception. These are the words of a man who has done the math, privately, physically, without an audience, and arrived at a conclusion that feels unshakable to him. He believes in the counter-wrestling. He believes in his ability to neutralize the very weapon that everyone else fears most. And that belief, forged in shared training sessions, is the foundation upon which his entire game plan rests. But it is not just the physical chess match that makes this fight so profoundly compelling. It is the atmosphere surrounding it, the chaos that seems to orbit Sean Strickland wherever he goes, as though he generates his own weather system. Dana White, a man who has presided over some of the most explosive moments in combat sports history, has openly expressed unease about Fight Week. Not about the competition itself, but about what happens before the bell rings. The press conferences, the face-offs, the moments when 2 men stand close enough to feel each other's breath. White's fear is real and specific. The potential for a physical altercation so volatile that the traditional face-offs may be scrapped entirely. When the UFC's own promoter is worried about 2 fighters simply being in the same room together, that tells you everything about the temperature of this rivalry. There is something almost poetic about a fight this dangerous, struggling to contain itself within the usual boundaries of promotion and theater. Most title fights are performances leading up to the performance. This one threatens to collapse the wall between the 2 entirely, to skip the show and go straight to the storm. And yet, beneath all of that explosive energy, there is a more human story unfolding. Strickland, for all his ferocity and sharp-edged commentary, is a man of startling depth. There is a vulnerability beneath the warrior's armor that occasionally surfaces, a reminder that the most intense competitors are often the ones carrying the heaviest emotional loads. The sport has seen glimpses of that rawness in Strickland before, moments where the guard drops and something more fragile and real emerges. That duality, the fearless combatant and the feeling human, is part of what makes him such an unforgettable figure in this era of the sport. Chimaev, for his part, carries his own mythology. Undefeated in the way that only a handful of fighters have managed to remain at this level, he is a man who is yet to be truly tested in the way that reveals character under maximum pressure. The question with Chimaev has never been whether he is elite. It is whether there exists a version of adversity he hasn't yet encountered, and whether Sean Strickland, of all people, might be the one to introduce it to him. This is the fight that promises a perfect blend of striking and grappling, not as a marketing phrase, but as a genuine tactical reality. If Strickland's counter-wrestling holds, the fight becomes a kickboxing clinic with a title on the line. If Chimaev finds a way through, it becomes a masterclass in the suffocating dominance that has defined his rise. Either way, something rare and definitive will be revealed about both men. 1 week. That is all that separates this moment from that one. 1 week of controlled chaos, of Dana White holding his breath through press conferences, of two elite athletes sharpening themselves to a point so fine it could cut the air between them. The canvas is laid. The stage is lit. The middleweight title hangs in the balance. Sean Strickland is ready for war. Whether the rest of the world is ready to watch it, that is an entirely different question.